Okay, picture this. It's the end of a long day. You get home, you put your key in the lock, you open the door, just like you've done 1,000 times before. But tonight's different. Something just feels wrong.
You just stop. You're frozen, right? There in the doorway? I mean, it's your room, everything's where it should be, but it feels alien. And this weird thought just pops into your head, you know? One you just can't shake.
The air feels, I don't know, heavy? Different? And then you see it. The clock on the wall? It's stopped. And wait a minute. That cup on the table, you are positive you washed that and put it away yesterday. It's this super creepy, unsettling feeling, right? So it gets you thinking, doesn't it? Is reality this solid, predictable thing? Or could it be that it shifts in these tiny little ways? Like maybe every time we open a door, every time we just look at something, we're actually stepping into a slightly different version of the world. I know, it's a wild thought, but it opens up this incredible door into what reality even is. So, come on, let's step through it. All right, to even begin to unpack that strange feeling, we've got to go small. I mean, really small. We're leaving the world of rooms and doors behind and diving headfirst into the absolutely bizarre world of quantum mechanics. So, in our everyday world, the world of classical physics, things are pretty straightforward, right? If you throw a tennis ball at a brick wall, it's going to bounce back. It's never, ever going to go through unless you throw it hard enough to break the wall. The wall is an absolute barrier. Simple. But down in the quantum world, oh man, that's where things get weird. A tiny particle, like an electron, can roll up to a similar energy barrier and just pop out on the other side. Like magic.
And that phenomenon? It has a name: quantum tunneling. The best way to think about it is like a bug in a video game. You know, when your character just walks straight through a solid wall, completely ignoring the rules of the game? Well, quantum tunneling is basically reality's version of that exact glitch.
But here's the kicker. This isn't just some weird abstract theory for a textbook. No way. This glitch in reality is the very reason you and I are here right now. It is literally the engine that powers our sun. Get this, the core of the sun isn't actually hot enough for hydrogen atoms to fuse together. Not even close. The energy they need is about 100 times more than what the sun's temperature can give them. So how does it work? Well, the only reason fusion happens at all is because those little atoms are constantly tunneling through their energy barriers to find each other. Our sun is shining right now because of something that should be totally impossible. So for decades, scientists knew this tunneling thing happened. They could see the results, but they had no idea how. I mean, was the particle just teleporting? Just blinking out of existence here and reappearing over there? Well, a really groundbreaking experiment back in 2025 gave us our first stunning clue.
Okay, so researchers at Post-Tech, they set up this brilliant experiment where they could actually track a particle as it was tunneling. And what they found? It was just astonishing. They found traces, actual evidence, that the particle was interacting with atoms inside the barrier while it was in the wall.
This discovery, it changes everything. It means the particle isn't just teleporting. It's not skipping from point A straight to point C. No, it's actually traveling through point B. It's going through the wall itself. It has an actual experience, even if it's for a fraction of a second, inside a place where, according to the old rules, it has no business being. And that brings us right back to that strange room. Think about it. If a tiny little particle can have an experience of a reality inside the wall, what are we experiencing in that split second we open a door? Could that bizarre feeling that something is off be a kind of echo, a trace of another possibility, a slightly different reality that we just tunneled through to get here? And this idea leads us to the final and, honestly, the most mind-bending part of this whole thing: our role in all of it. What if we aren't just passive witnesses watching reality unfold? What if we're something more? There's this core principle in quantum mechanics called the observer effect, and it's a wild one. Here's the gist. Before you look at a particle, it doesn't really have one specific location. It exists as a wave of probabilities. Just imagine a ripple in a pond, spreading out in all directions at once. The particle is kind of everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. But the very instant you observe it, that whole wave of possibilities collapses into one single definite spot.
Just let that sink in for a second. You have a particle that's pure potential. Then someone or something observes it, and boom, out of all those infinite possibilities, one single reality just snaps into existence. Your very act of looking, of measuring, It seems to be what creates the outcome.
But, and this is the multi-trillion-dollar question, the one physicists and philosophers are still arguing about, what exactly counts as an observation? I mean, is it a machine taking a measurement? Is it the photons hitting your eyeball? Is it your brain processing that signal? Or is it something way more profound? Is it consciousness itself that makes the decision and collapses that wave?
Okay, let's play with a really radical idea here for a second. What if our most basic idea of who we are is just wrong? You know, we tend to think of ourselves like cameras, just passively recording a world that's already out there, fully formed.
But what if that's backwards? What if we're not cameras? What if we're more like projectors? What if our awareness, our consciousness, is the very thing that selects one reality from an infinite menu of possibilities? Maybe we're the ones who are actually deciding which version of the world snaps into focus and becomes real.
And that brings us right back to where we started. That bizarre, creepy feeling you got when you walked into your room. Now look, I know this is a huge leap, but maybe it wasn't just you being tired. Maybe it wasn't a trick of the light. Maybe it was the faintest echo, the whisper of your own consciousness tunneling and selecting a reality that was just a tiny, tiny bit different from the one you left this morning. So it leaves us with this one final, massive question to think about. Are we just sitting in a theater watching a movie called reality, or is our consciousness the projector? The very thing that makes the film real, frame by agonizing frame, moment by moment. In a universe this strange, full of these incredible possibilities, well, that's a question worth asking yourself every single time you open a door.